Good evening, or actually good morning. It's 12:30 Mountain Time. I'm leaving our yard in Greeley, Colorado, heading for Wichita, Kansas. I just got off my 34-hour break, so people say, there he goes again, another late night or another overnight video. Yeah. Well, this is when my break was over, so here I am. Let me put this seatbelt on, almost forgot. It'll start screaming at me if I don't. That's another thing I had to get used to in Alaska, running the Dalton Highway, a lot of guys don't wear their seat belts. I wore mine sometimes I didn't. We didn't have a thing on the truck, we didn't have one of those seat belt buzzers that went off. Because, you get halfway up Adigan Pass and start sliding backwards. You have to jump out of the truck quick if you're about to go over the mountain. So a lot of guys didn't wear their seatbelt, and I kind of got used to that. And now, I got to get back used to wearing a seatbelt. Tree right here, you can't see it to my left. That blocks your view of that street till you pull out. It's a little easier at night because you can see headlights, but in the daytime you can't see anything. I don't for the life of me know why they do stuff like that, put trees right on street corners like that. It definitely does nothing for safety. Everybody talks about safety. No one else wants to do anything about it. We're the only ones that are supposed to do anything about it. We work our way down to I-70. Our old shop used to be down here, like right here to the right. I think I've said that in another video. Somebody else is using it. I don't know if we own it and leasing it out or if we sold it. Don't know. Not my circus, nor is it my monkeys. Well, I turned that other truck in just in time. I don't know if you remember a few videos back, I was talking about at the top, it was a little bit low, so I had to top it off with coolant. radiator, which I didn't. There was nothing leaking on the engine at all. I did have a leak back on one of the lines that go back to the bunk heater. It wasn't a bad leak, but I could see it dripping on the ground back there. You know, where it's parked. It's still parked where I left it. Now they're going to sell it, but they'll fix all that first and get a better price for it. So I say I got rid of it just in time. I mean, it's not a major thing. It's probably one of those lines leaking. They're notorious for that. This trailer I picked up here, I picked it up yesterday. I noticed it had a couple of spots on one set of duals where somebody had drug it. I guess last time it was cold and they didn't realize the brakes hadn't released. Although I don't remember it being that cold yet this winter. Not down here anyway. Man, I tell you what, I spent many a time on my back in Fairbanks, laying under a trailer, beating on brakes, get them to pop loose. If you can get a good square hit on them, usually one good hit and they'll pop. But there's always the stubborn ones. Or we'd have a trailer have dust covers over them. I know a lot of guys say, "Oh, you should have a torch." I had a torch, but a lot of times it's quicker to just give them a good tap with a hammer. Either way, you got to get up under there, so it doesn't really matter. And that's usually from drive. That's when we were doing Carlisle freight before I went to Mid-Alaska. And that's some guys, local drivers especially, just didn't give a damn. They'd back into a spot and blast the brakes right away instead of waiting a few minutes before they set them. If you wait a few minutes, they won't freeze up. You know, if you give the brakes a chance to cool off. But these guys don't care, and they would just pop them as soon as they backed it into a spot there at the yard. Like minus 40 up there lately, so that's good brake freezing weather. Got to stop down here in Bennett, Colorado, and put some fuel in the truck. I got half a tank. I mean, yeah, I could get over to, what's that little town? Before you get into Kansas. My mind went blank. But there's a Love's out there. I don't remember. But I can make it there. Fond of stopping at the one in Bennett, although it's better than it was because they expanded the parking lot, which you wouldn't think would have anything to do with the fuel island, but it just seems it's less cluttered in there, because before it had a fairly small parking area and guys would just pile up in there. Because you know what I always say, you know, a lot of these drivers, they'll pick the smallest truck stop they can find to try to pile into at 2 o'clock in the morning. And anyway, speaking of that, guess there was another one of these Indian truck drivers that Border Patrol had to chase down. I guess they had to put down spike strips to stop him. He was running from them. Another illegal, another California CDL holder. Had no business having a CDL. Thank you, Gavin Newsom, and that guy's got the nerve to run for president. You know, here's the gall with this guy, okay? Here's the gall with Gavin Newsom. Alright? And this is not a partisan thing. I mean, you can say it is because, you know, of his political party, but I mean, if he were a Republican, I'd say the same thing. The man's got a lot of gall. And what I mean by that is he acts like nothing is his. Number one, he's in extreme denial. He'll sit there and tell you no one's moving out of California when we know a lot of people are moving out of California. U-Haul said last year that they have a shortage of U-Haul trucks and trailers in California, and they have an abundance of them in the Dallas-Fort Worth area because so many people are going from California to Dallas-Fort Worth. And so they're having to pay people to transport these things back to California so people can use them to go back to Texas with. But he's in extreme denial. He's sitting there saying it's not happening, and it's happening. Same thing with the CDL thing. With these, not only that he refuses to stop issuing non-domicile CDLs to illegals, to the point to where he's suing the federal government for the money that because they told him we're going to cut your funding if you don't stop. And so he's suing them instead of saying, yeah, we shouldn't be doing this. All these accidents that have been happening, he acts like they're not happening. And a lot of them are happening right there in California. And he acts like they're not happening. I've never seen such a case of denial in my life. I mean, he's just like, it's not happening. And we're supposed to, oh, well, Gavin Newsom said it's not happening, so fair enough. Carry on, Gavin. It's like, how do you sleep at night, man? People are dying, dude. I mean, all you have to do is just cut, you and the CHP, man, just cut it off. Just stop doing it. Stop issuing these CDs. What is it? Is it because you hate Donald Trump or something? And look, I don't care if you like or dislike Donald Trump, it has nothing to do with Trump. But a lot of these, especially, you know, more left-wing governors and such are doing things just because they don't like Trump. Well, I don't like Tim Walz of Minnesota. He acts like the whole daycare fraud thing's not happening. Why? Well, because I don't like Trump. It's all about Trump. He said, well, you know, the Somalis are ripping off your state for days. Yeah, Trump. No, dude, that has nothing to do with Trump. Trump's fault or Trump's fault. Whatever Trump does wrong, we'll blame Trump for it. This is you, bro. Same thing with Gavin Newsom. This is you. I don't get it, man. Gavin Newsom would rather see people die than to admit he was wrong. What a freaking narcissist this guy is. Look, here's a dirty little secret. And I heard a guy say this years ago about being president, and I think the same holds true with being a governor. You have to have a bit of an ego to be a governor or a president, because what you're saying is, I believe I'm the best person to run this entire state or this entire nation. Out of everyone else, I believe I'm the best person. So it takes a bit of hubris. It takes a bit of ego. It takes a bit of ego. So all these people have a bit of ego, right? Senators have a bit more ego than Congress people because there's less senators than there are Congress people. But it's representatives, I should say. So they all have a bit of an ego. But this guy, Gavin Newsom's ego is like, I mean, my God, man. I thought Trump had a big ego. This guy, Gavin Newsom, is just, I don't see how anybody else can live with him. I mean, he's so full of himself. But there have been accidents right there in California. Not to mention the accidents from these guys, that happen in other parts of the country. Because they don't stay in California. And he doesn't care. The CHP doesn't care. I don't know, man. We're living in crazy times. Meanwhile, they continue to overregulate us. We're the problem. I'm not the problem. Chances are you're not the problem. But they continue to make us the problem. Well, what we need to do? We've got to overregulate the American drivers some more. That'll solve it. No, it won't. Because that's not the problem. It's like the Somali daycare fraud thing. Well, it's like Tim Walsh comes down and says, well, white people commit crimes. No kidding, Tim. That's not the point. That's not what's going on in Minnesota, bro. This is what politicians do. Oh, don't look at the people actually causing a problem. Look at these other people over here. Well, I'm those other people over there. I'm an American truck driver who's not a non-domicile CDL holder. I'm not the problem. I've said it 1,000 times, and I'll beat that horse to death. Accident rates were going down back in the day. Before all of this. Before the ELDs. But before bringing a bunch of foreign drivers over here. Before a lot of this. Accident rates were going down. Now they're going up. You're doing it wrong. Talking to the government. You're doing it wrong. Leave us the hell alone. We're not the problem. I've said it 1,000 times. If you want to come over here, you want to learn English, you want to come over here the right way, and you want to get a job in this industry, and you want to follow the rules, and you want to be able to read the road signs, and you want to be a productive member of society, and you want to drive the way the rest of us drive, well, the way the rest of us should drive. Driving habits of America's getting worse, it seems like, as well. We're deteriorating as well, but we're not down to India level yet. And if you want to chastise me for that and say it's something racist, all you got to do is talk to police in India and they'll tell you the same thing. They have an epidemic of just people who just don't give a damn on the highway over there. But if you want to come over here and drive right and learn the language and all, God bless you, I don't have a problem with it. And I've said that 1,000, I shouldn't have to keep saying it, but unfortunately in this world, if you say anything negative about anyone who happens to be a different skin color from you, then that makes you automatically a racist. It's like I've said before, all races are created equal. Not all cultures are. And cultures are things that can be taught. There are some cultures where ripping off the government is just a way of life. Because it's a crap hole country and they have a crap hole government. You look at what's going on in Iran right now. And thank God maybe finally the people of Iran are going to push back and get rid of that dictatorship that has destroyed that country. I'm happy for those people. I hope they do it. I hope they go all the way this time. They've been living under the tyranny of a radical Islamic administration for decades. Iran was once a very modern, Western-looking country up until the 70s. Anyway, I didn't mean to get into geopolitics and all that with Iran. I just, I'll go back to bashing Gavin Newsom because he's low-hanging fruit. He really is. He doesn't realize that, though, and that's the point. He honestly believes he's doing a great job. California's in great shape, and there's nothing wrong. There's absolutely nothing. Yeah, sure, we got maps of San Francisco that show you where the poop is on the street so you can avoid it. We got people, Walgreens is pulling out of the Bay Area because there's so many thefts, because local prosecutors won't prosecute thieves and the cops won't do anything about it. Same in Los Angeles. Yeah, the Palisades fire was totally preventable because I've blown up a bunch of dams. We dried up the reservoirs. Half the fire hydrants didn't work. But hey, we got a female fire chief, man, so we're diverse. But I'm doing a great job. Great job, Gavin. Fantastic. So some people die. No big deal. There he goes ranting again. Yes, there I go. Because it's very frustrating. Anyone in this business who's been in this business over 20, 25 years will tell you how frustrating this is. We've known what the problem has been. And it's not just illegal immigrant drivers. We know what the problems are in this industry, which didn't used to be that many problems. But the federal government has beat us to death with over-regulation that just makes things worse. They do nothing to help. It's very maddening. And I'm sure there's other industries like that. I'm sure I can get a lot of people from, oh yeah, this industry is the same, and this. I'm not saying it's just the trucking industry, but it's very bad when, number one, when accident rates were low and going down, the federal government just kept saying, accident rates are going down, but we need to put in some more regulations just to justify our existence. I literally heard a guy, a Tennessee state trooper, Tennessee, which I'm not surprised it came out of the mouth of a Tennessee state trooper, on the radio, on one of these trucking channels, which is another reason why I don't listen to them when I do have satellite radio, because that's another story. He was being interviewed talking about how, so many drivers are in compliance now that at this weigh station, we have to dig deeper to try to find violations. What? You have to dig deeper to try to find violations. It's about revenue, is what he's basically saying. He didn't say, well, truck drivers are so compliant, we can release some of those troopers to get out there and maybe pull some of these four-wheelers over that are doing 90 mile an hour down I-40. No, he didn't say that. He said, we got to dig deeper to find violations now. And the host of the show, Dave Nemo, who a lot of you guys know, did nothing to push back on that. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Why? Because Dave Nemo, God bless him, he's been in trucking radio for decades, but he's not a driver and he's never been a driver. He has no idea what the hell he's talking about. I would have pushed back. A lot of you would have pushed back. Would have said, well, hang on, wait a minute. Why don't you release some of those troopers at the scales to go after some of these speeding cars that cause a lot of accidents? Instead of trying to dig deeper to try to find a violation on the trucks. That's what we're dealing with in this industry. And then, when there is a problem in this industry, the government says, yeah, we see this as the problem, but we're going to deflect from that and we're going to overregulate you over here. Or you're not the problem, but we're going to go ahead and put a new regulation on you anyway. Just because. It's maddening. It's maddening. They beat the trucking industry to death. They don't beat the railroad industry to death, because the railroad industry has got a lot of lobbyists in Washington who don't sit there and destroy themselves. The trucking industry is so, I can blame a lot of it on the government, but I can blame a lot of it on the industry itself too. We are so self-destructive. I don't mean because we cause this and that, a lot of accidents and things. I mean because you will get people who supposedly represent the trucking industry, like the American Trucking Association, and a lot of CEOs of a lot of these big mega carriers, and they will go to Washington and they will sit there and they will prostrate themselves in front of some congressional committee and tell you how terrible the trucking industry is. Oh yes, we're terrible. Oh yes, we need more regulations on us. Oh, please regulate us more. We need speed limiters. Yes, that's what we need. We need this regulation. We need that. Get rid of the personal conveyance. Oh, please, more hours of service regulations. Please, we don't have enough. The railroad doesn't do that. But the trucking industry does that. The CEOs of the mega carriers do that. The American Trucking Association does that. Honestly, I don't know why they're in the trucking industry. They seem to hate it. Why would you be in the ATA? You don't seem to like the trucking industry anyway. So why are you there? To destroy it? Because that's what you're doing. When you have the head of Maverick Transportation say, oh yes, we need speed limiters. No, if you want to limit the speed of your trucks, go for it. Why are you worried about other trucks? I'll tell you why. It has nothing to do with safety. It's because he doesn't want any other company's trucks getting the job done quicker than his trucks get the job done, because his drivers suck. Not all of them. I'm not going to sit here and say every Maverick driver sucks. But he hires a lot of students. Anytime you see a trucking company's CEO or owner coming out and talking about how we need more regulations on trucks, there's two things that play there. One, they want to limit their competition, and two, they know that their drivers suck. And they don't want your drivers getting the job done better and more efficient than their drivers. And that's why they do that. And the ATA does it because the ATA works for the mega carriers. They do not work for you and me. Maybe your local trucking association does, but the American Trucking Association doesn't. They work for J.B. Hunt, they work for Swift, they work for Maverick, they work for Prime, they work for all these other companies. That's who they work for. They do not work for American Trucking, unless you're a mega carrier. I didn't mean to go on this rant. I didn't know I was going to go on this rant. I never plan out what I'm going to say in one of these videos like this. If it's a video where it's just me you know, I'm sitting somewhere, just see my face. Sometimes I'll kind of have an idea what I'm going to talk about. Like the last video, I was talking about, my mind went blank. Sign-on bonuses, right? I planned that. I wanted to do a quick video just because I'm trying to get more videos in, and I'm going to talk about sign-on bonuses. But by and large, when I'm doing this, going down the road, I don't plan what I'm going to talk about. I may have an idea in my head. I don't want to just have a bunch of dead air. Although some of y'all like the dead air. Some of y'all like it when, you know, they just like to hear the truck going down the road. And I get that. It can be therapeutic. I understand. I try not to run my brights right here because you got the interstate traffic. I want to, at the same time, I like to see this turn right here. But most of the time, I just go off on a rant. And maybe I should plan things more. Maybe I wouldn't go on such a rant. This stupid thing making noise. Here's another quote safety device. We got this sensor thing on the right. When you use your turn signal and you make a right turn, this thing beep. I don't know if you just heard it. Very annoying. If you don't use your turn signal and you make a right turn, it doesn't make any noise. So basically what this quote safety device is doing is encouraging you not to use your turn signal if you don't want to hear that annoying sound. Yeah, that's safety. Another quote safety device that does nothing for safety. Now, if you're going down the highway and you're going to change lanes and you hit it, it's supposed to be there to warn you if there's something next to you. That's fine. That's safety. But every time I make a right turn, I don't need to hear that thing go off. That's not safety. I get to the point to where I don't want to use my right turn signal when I turn right. Something else they put on these trucks so they can charge more money for them. That was I-76 back there we crossed. We're going to keep heading south toward I-70. This is the quickest, shortest way from Greeley, Colorado down to I-70. This is the way most people do it. The only other way you're going to really do it is to run US 89 all the way down into the northern Denver suburbs and then get on, you know, go down that way. That's ridiculously long, out of the way, and you've got 15,000 red lights on 89 between Greeley and suburban Denver. And I'm not doing it. And for those of you that are not in the industry and you wonder why I rant so much, I can guarantee you the guys who've been who have been in this industry for more than, say, 20, 25 years, because the younger guys they came into the industry with a lot of this, so they don't know any better. But for the guys who've been in this industry, say 25 years or more, they understand why. They understand it. They know exactly why I go on these rants, because I'm sure they've seen it, right? And it probably frustrates them as well. Like, we see what the problems are. We see the things that need to be fixed and the things that don't need to be fixed. But the government doesn't. Or they do and they just don't care. They just ignore it. And they just go do whatever they want. By the way, this isn't a JBS load. This is a load out of a cold storage, which is about less than a mile and a half from our yard. So it's really, really close. We've been doing more business with them. Normally I get a JBS load out, but I got this one. Doesn't deliver till Monday though. That's the only thing I don't like, but it's Saturday. I can be in Wichita in 8.5 hours. So there'll be some pooch screwing. My wife hates that expression, screwing the pooch. That's so gross. Yeah, we say that a lot in construction. I used to work commercial construction for a while, years ago. And, you didn't have anything to do. You just, I'm screwing the pooch. Well, some guys would say it a little more colorful than that, but the kid-friendly version is screwing the pooch. Yeah, I could have waited till later on today, this afternoon, to leave, or even tonight, but I'll go ahead and get down here. This seat, I don't know if you can hear that air. Psst, psst, psst. It's this dang seat. I guess that airbag on the seat there that does that to regulate the air pressure on it. I'm not fond of this seat. It sits up too high. You can only go so low in it. And no, I'm not one of those guys that puts his seat down on the floor, but it's a little higher than I like it. State of Colorado needs to do a little work on this road. Then again, the state of Colorado needs to do a little work on a lot of their roads. .1 degrees, the 3rd of January, northern Colorado. crazy. I think I've actually worn a jacket once this winter. Once. Now the eastern side of the country, they're getting it. This side of the country, not so much. I wore myself out. I'm not talking anymore. I don't know. I said all I needed to say, damn it. I guess I could go on a rant about people who put their dogs in baby strollers. I could go on a rant about that. Well, that's out of left field, isn't it? Wow, where the hell's he going with that? Dogs in baby strollers. Yeah, you never saw people put their dogs in baby strollers? It's the most annoying thing in the world. Dogs need to walk. They're dogs. That's what they do. They walk. I think there's somebody coming. Maybe not. I thought I saw lights. There that thing goes again. But yeah, people who, dogs need to walk. Now, if you've got a dog that, say, is crippled or is very, very old, and you want the dog to still be able to get outside and get some sunshine and some fresh air, and they can't walk, so that's one thing. We're not talking about that. But I'm not going to get in the whole dogs, people walking dogs, whatever. Because that's really out of left field. But I heard somebody talking about it. I don't remember who. Adam Carolla, I think, or somebody was talking about it. And I'm like, yeah, man, that's always just jerk my frog, man. People who put their dog in a baby stroller. Or whatever. They have strollers just for that now, for dogs. And it's like, Yeah, let the dog walk. That's what the dog needs. You know, just because you're a fat, lazy piece of crap doesn't mean the dog needs to be a fat, lazy piece of crap. Now, I guess you're not too much of a lazy piece of crap. You're walking, and you're pushing a stroller with your dog in it. So good for you for getting exercise. So I'll kind of backtrack on that a bit. But your dog, on the other hand, also needs the exercise. Walk the dog. That's all I'm going to say about it. I'm not getting into the dog in the baby stroller thing any deeper than that. That could be for another video for another day. This is what happens when you spend hours and hours by yourself in a truck, right? I'm telling you, you could solve most of the world's problems because you do nothing but sit here and think. Unless you're listening to a podcast or something like that. And that reefer just kicked on, which is good. I smell feet. I think it's that feedlot they got out here somewhere. Drive all the way to Wichita? Probably will. Depends on how much or how pissed off I get with people on the road between here and there. It's only 500 and something miles. I'll probably park at that Love's there in town. It's a nice Love's there. It looks like they've got a really small parking lot, but next door is the Speedco and the truck wash that Love's owns all that, and there's more parking back there, so they actually got a good bit of parking. But a lot of guys don't realize that they got that other parking lot. Wichita, anybody who's run through Wichita a lot, which I do more now than I did last time I worked here. But there's not a lot of places to park. There's not a lot of truck stops around Wichita. It's really not. Because, you know, you got the main road, you know, I-35 kind of skirts goes through the outskirts of Wichita, and it's a toll road. So there's no truck stops on it hardly. There's a couple of service plazas. But, I mean, there are really no truck stops around Wichita. I'll do a 34 here, maybe not, I don't know. And then they gave me this load today. Somebody, one of the local drivers was going to pick up. And he picked it up, brought it back to the yard. And I'd hooked to it. And that's when I noticed a couple of bad tires on it. But I was like, well, I went in the dispatch office and I said, look, there's no reason for me to leave with this today. It doesn't deliver till Monday. There's no sense me leaving now. I'm about, at that time, you know, I'm about 13 hours away from having a 34 done. And I was down to 20-something hours. So why not just go ahead and knock this 34 out? That way I don't have to go to Wichita and then maybe do 1 or 2 more loads and then have to do one. And then I'm sitting in the middle of next week, and that's gonna cut into my miles. And they were like, man, go ahead. Yeah, you got plenty of time. And that's called using your brain. Besides, I have a vehicle. I got my old Jeep that I bought in Alaska, parked up there in Greeley. So if I want to go do something, I can go do something. I just noticed today they got a few hiking trails around Greeley. They're relatively easy, but they do have some, but that's fine. Walking is walking. I did a little walking today just along the street, but I'd like to find a trail somewhere. It's a bit different. I like to get off the pavement, you know. Now, the thing about Colorado, a lot of people don't understand if you've never been here. You hear Colorado and you think of mountains. That's only part of the state. Anything from Denver east is relatively flat. It's pretty much the way I live. Where I live, it's the high plains. You have some canyons and you have some hills, but you don't have mountains. And so everything around Greeley is relatively flat. Even the rivers around Greeley don't make canyons. Like at my house, most of the rivers make some sort of canyon or valley, something like that. But around Greeley, the rivers don't. It's pretty flat. So you're not going to get any mountainous trails like you had when I was in Alaska. Not unless you get west of Denver. And then you might get something. Like if you notice around here, no mountains. You can see them off to your west, but they're not here. There's one state, if I were to leave Texas, that I would contemplate going to, and that would be Nevada. Northern Nevada, not the Vegas area. But I mean up there around Elko, Battle Mountain, Winnemucca, up that way. It's very, very isolated. Very isolated. Even along the interstate, those towns are, it's very, very rural. If it were not for Vegas and Reno, Nevada would probably be as close to, probably be close to Wyoming in terms of population. There's nothing in Nevada. It's all desert and mountains. That's all it is. But I think it's beautiful. And I could be up there and become a hermit. In northern Nevada, it gets very cold in the winter, gets snow, and then in the summer you get the heat, you're in the desert, so you get all 4 seasons. And it's really weird being a guy from South Louisiana, and I like the water, don't get me wrong, but, I live in West Texas where we have very little water, and I like places like Nevada where they have very little water. Although I liked Alaska too in the summertime. In Alaska, there's water everywhere. It's a lot like Louisiana. There's water everywhere. But I don't know. I always liked northern Nevada. I know a lot of people are saying, "Are you crazy? Nothing up there." Yeah, you're right. That's right. There's nothing up there. There's a few old mines that are played out. They grow potatoes up there around Winnemucca. But yeah, there's nothing up there. You're absolutely right. I-80 is pretty desolate till you get down close to Reno. From Salt Lake to Reno, there's not much of anything. In fact, the loneliest road in America is in Nevada. What is that? Highway 6, I believe. I've been on it. And it is pretty desolate. Really, what's funny is if you run between Vegas and Reno, which I've done a lot. We used to have a customer at another place I worked that we did a lot of trips from East Texas to Reno. And they had a warehouse in both areas. And we'd run between Vegas and Reno. The daytime, that road is full of traffic. But at night, once the sun goes down, it's dead. Absolutely dead. And that's when I'd run it. I'd get out to about, what is that, Indian Springs, right outside of Vegas. It's paper log days when you could run when you wanted to run. And I'd sit out there and take a nap and wait till about 7, 8 o'clock that night and take off. And you had the road basically to yourself. Now, you had to be careful because there are a lot of those little towns where the speed limit's 70 and then boom, it drops to 30. There's no 70 to 55 to 40. Nope. It goes from 70 to 30. And they got cops. And you got those ranches out there, you know, with the prostitutes, which is legal. You'll see them off in the distance, out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, nowhere. Mind moving to Alaska. My wife would never go for. My wife never go for moving to Nevada either. She likes it where we're at, and I don't blame her. Her house, you know, we paid for in February. I got some other property I've got paid off. So yeah, I don't blame her. I'll let it run till we get down here to the Loves. Why not? I'll put something in the title about me going on another rant so you can skip it if you don't like the rants. 135 down to Wichita. I know there's some guys out there right now saying, well, you know, if you jump down on this county road and you take this state highway and you can shave about 30 miles off the trip, yeah, it'll take you an extra hour and a half, but yeah, I'm not interested. And I'm the king of shortcuts, but I'm also the king of being practical. So we'll just run 70 to 135. Simple. Even I can figure it out. Slow down, big curve coming. I've only run this road 1,000,000 times. I didn't realize I'd gotten down here so quick. This seat letting off that air is very irritating. Every little noise irritates me now the older I get. I don't know why, but it just does. Every little unnecessary noise. There are necessary noises out there, and then there are unnecessary noises. The big city of Bennett. A lot of you are like, Robert, you're running your engine brake in this little town. Yes, I am. It's not very loud. Sometimes I'll turn it off, but it's not very loud. I'm not driving through a neighborhood. Now, when I was in the oil field, there's some videos. I had a 389 Pete that had straight pipes on it, and that thing, yeah, would rattle the windows. That QT across the street helped out a lot too with trucks. Guys park over there, and what the hell that noise there was, and they get fuel over there. Tractor Supply. I need to go to Tractor Supply next time I'm home. I actually see empty parking out there. Yes, ever since they expanded this parking lot, man, you can actually come in here in the middle of the night sometime and find parking. I don't park here very often. Usually if I'm this close to Greeley, I go on. But sometimes I got to go on into Denver, and I'll park here. Anyway, I'll go ahead and end this video. I'm going to get fuel and head east on I-70. I appreciate you watching. Appreciate you putting up with the rants. And we'll see you next time.